Now, the humanitarian situation in Gaza remains enormously difficult. We've seen in the last few hours another airdrop of aid coming in, and there's particular focus on the fact that aid is now going to start to come in to Gaza by sea. Now, again, it won't meet the scale of the need there, but it is going to be a new route. Let's speak, first of all, to Tom Bateman, who's in Virginia, because the US are also going to be building a pier, and some more information's been released about this. And Quentin Somerville as well, our correspondent in Larnaca in Cyprus, who's been watching the departure of that first aid ship, which is going to use this newly established maritime aid corridor from Cyprus to Gaza. Quentin, tell us a little bit more about that ship and crucially about how they'll actually unload the aid and distribute it when it gets there.
The ship left this morning just before 9 a.m. local time, the Open Arms. It's a Spanish vessel, but it's being operated by an American charity, World Central Kitchen. They're taking 200 tons of aid, flour, rice, pre-prepared meals. That might seem like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, and particularly in terms of Gaza's need, it's a tiny amount. They've got a long journey ahead of them. It normally takes about 15 hours to get from Larnaca to Gaza, but in fact it'll take about 50 hours, we think, perhaps 2 days, because of the nature of the vessel and the cargo that it's carrying. It's not a ship that's built for moving cargo. And when it gets there, it will be difficult because Gaza has been hammered by Israeli bombardments. Most of the infrastructure is gone. They want to get this aid to northern Gaza, which is particularly badly affected. People there on the brink of famine, children suffering from malnutrition. But there is no pier, there is no jetty. So World Central Kitchen are busy while that ship is in the water. They're taking some of the debris from the devastation in Gaza and they're building a jetty. It's a round-the-clock mission. They say they're working 24/7 so that hopefully by the time that the Open Arms lands or arrives in Gaza, it has somewhere to dock and it can offload that aid and start distributing it to some of the 60 kitchens it has across the territory.
And Quentin, I know you've been doing some calculations on this, because what is actually aboard that ship is really a very small amount of aid compared to the need currently in Gaza.
That's right, Anna. The United Kingdom says that Gaza needs about 500 trucks a day going in. It's currently running about 100 trucks a day. Trucking aid in is the most efficient and the quickest, the most effective way of getting aid to Gaza. Sending it hundreds of miles across the sea isn't. And the calculation is that you would need 50 of these barges every single day arriving in Gaza to match those 500 trucks that the UK and others have been pressurising Israel for many months to let into Gaza, but to no avail.
And Tom Bateman, you're there in Virginia, because Quentin was talking there, of course, about the lack at the moment of anything large scale to actually bring aid ashore. That is what the US military are about to do. What have you been finding out there? What have they been saying about their logistical plans?
Well, what's actually happening here now, Anna, is 4 ships have left, and the 4th one just behind me is setting off now. It's going to head south down towards Florida and then head across the Atlantic into the eastern Mediterranean. These ships are building a floating harbour that will be constructed by around 1,000 US Army troops off the coast of Gaza. So they're going to build this thing. The trip itself takes 30 days. It's then another few days, they say, to construct it. And this will create effectively an offshore harbour that will allow very large civilian ships to offload container loads of aid via a floating pier that these troops will construct and will then be floated to the shore of Gaza. It will have to be obviously anchored and attached on the coastline. And there are a lot of questions remaining about all of this, because we still don't know who this will be coordinated with, who will build and crucially secure the aid once it's on shore, and then how the distribution takes place. The Pentagon have talked about the UN being involved and some Israeli involvement potentially with security, but we still don't have the answers to that. And some of these fundamental issues remain, as Quentin was alluding to there, because this is a huge logistical operation announced by President Biden in his State of the Union address last week. But the fact remains that all of this and more could be done very easily by road if, as aid groups say, there was more opening of the land crossings by the Israelis. And that's why this is a political rather than a logistical issue at its core. And the Americans continue to put that pressure on the Israelis, they say, to open more land crossings into Gaza.
Tom, thank you. That's Tom Bateman there in Virginia and Quentin Somerville in Larnaca in Cyprus.